Welcome to my channel, ATK Tales. In this video, we'll dive into the billionaire space race, power and profit beyond Earth. If you enjoy my content, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. The idea of reaching for the stars has long been a government-driven endeavor. For decades, space exploration was reserved for powerful agencies like NASA, Russia's Roscosmos, and China's space program. These organizations built rockets, sent astronauts to the moon, and laid the foundation for humanity's understanding of space. But what if, in the 21st century, the next great leap for humanity in space was driven not by governments, but by the very people who've built fortunes through Silicon Valley startups, technological innovations, and bold entrepreneurial thinking? This is where the story of the billionaire space race begins. By 2022, the very definition of space exploration had changed. It was no longer about national pride or international rivalries. It was about pushing boundaries, making money, and shaping the future of humanity. Three billionaire figures, Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, and Richard Branson, were at the forefront of this new race. They weren't just exploring space, they were transforming it into the ultimate business venture. They were not only trying to conquer space, they were rewriting the rules of space travel itself. Setting the context. For decades, space was the realm of national space agencies. The United States had NASA, Russia had its Roscosmos, and China had its rapidly growing space program. These agencies competed against each other, racing to achieve milestones like landing on the moon or sending probes to distant planets. The space race of the 1960s is a vivid example where the U.S. and the Soviet Union were locked in a fierce battle for supremacy in space. The focus then was on exploration, scientific discovery, and geopolitical influence. Space was about setting flags on distant worlds and marking national achievements for history. But by 2022, things began to change. A new wave of private companies, founded by the world's wealthiest individuals, began making waves in the space industry. With ambitions far beyond Earth's orbit, these moguls sought not only to unlock the secrets of space, but also to make a profit. They were transforming space travel into a commercial industry, and the stakes were higher than ever. In this new landscape, the traditional model of government-controlled space exploration started to give way to the innovation and competition of private enterprise. Space tourism, space mining, colonization of Mars. These weren't just fantasies anymore. They were becoming very real business ventures. The beginning of the race. The launch of SpaceX's Falcon 9 rocket and Blue Origin's New Shepard marked a turning point. These rockets were designed not just for exploration, but to be reusable, which lowered costs and made space travel more accessible. Jeff Bezos's Blue Origin and Elon Musk's SpaceX started breaking records and pushing the boundaries of what private companies could do. They were determined to achieve what governments had struggled with for decades: sustainable, cost-effective space travel. NASA had always been the most well-known space agency in the world, but by 2022, it was no longer the only player in town. SpaceX had already launched astronauts to the International Space Station, while Blue Origin had completed successful suborbital flights with paying customers on board. These private space companies were not just competitors to NASA, they were transforming the space industry itself. Meanwhile, Richard Branson's Virgin Galactic was also making strides in space tourism. Branson's goal wasn't to send humans to Mars like Musk's SpaceX, but to provide suborbital flights for the wealthy. Branson's mission was clear: make space travel an experience for the elite, bringing the fantasy of weightlessness and Earth from above to a select group of customers. But while these billionaires were all striving for different aspects of the space frontier, one thing was clear: they were in a race, not just with each other, but with the government space agencies. The space industry was being redefined, and the competition was no longer about being the first to land on the moon. It was about being the first to bring space travel to the masses, and in doing so, revolutionizing space as we know it. The question was no longer who would control space, but who would shape its future. And in this new race, the prize wasn't just a flag planted on a distant planet. It was the future of humanity itself. The idea of space exploration has always been tied to grand national ambitions. The moon landing, the space race between the U.S. and the Soviet Union, and the exploration of other planets were all driven by government agencies like NASA. But as the 21st century unfolded, three visionaries emerged: Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, and Richard Branson. These men weren't just interested in space because of patriotism or the desire to make scientific discoveries. They saw space as the final frontier for personal ambition, immense wealth, and securing a lasting legacy for humanity itself. Jeff Bezos' journey to space wasn't just about making a successful rocket launch. It was about building a future where humanity could thrive in space. Bezos, the founder of Amazon, is one of the richest men on Earth. However, his vision for the future isn't focused solely on wealth. His company, Blue Origin, is driven by a dream of creating an orbital civilization. In other words, Bezos believes that we can build large-scale space stations where humans can live, work, and thrive without exhausting Earth's resources. In July 2021, Bezos made history by becoming the second billionaire, after Richard Branson, to travel into space aboard Blue Origin's New Shepard rocket. This flight, which lasted only a few minutes, was a demonstration of what Blue Origin could achieve. But for Bezos, this was just the beginning. He wants to go much further, aiming to launch human colonies into space where they could live indefinitely, free from the constraints of Earth. Elon Musk, the founder of the SpaceX, has perhaps the most audacious vision of all. Unlike Bezos, Musk isn't just thinking about space, tourism, or building orbital colonies. He wants to establish a permanent human presence on another planet, specifically Mars. Musk believes that the survival of humanity depends on becoming a multi-planetary species. He argues that Earth, while beautiful and rich in resources, is vulnerable to extinction-level events. Like asteroid strikes or climate change, Musk's ambition goes beyond the excitement of sending humans into space. He's focused on Mars as a potential backup home for humanity. In 2002, Musk founded SpaceX with the goal of reducing the cost of space travel and eventually enabling the colonization of Mars. One of SpaceX's biggest breakthroughs is the Falcon 9 rocket, which is reusable, drastically cutting down the cost of launching rockets into space. Musk's long-term goal is to send human beings to Mars in a spacecraft called a Starship. While this might sound like science fiction, Musk has already begun making plans for the first human missions to the Red Planet in the mid-2020s. While Bezos and Musk are focused on building humanity's future in space, Richard Branson's approach is different. The founder of Virgin Galactic, Branson's goal is not to send humans to other planets, but to make space travel accessible to the wealthy elite. Branson has made it clear that his mission is to offer space tourism to those who can afford it. Unlike Musk and Bezos, who aim to revolutionize humanity's relationship with space in the long run, Branson's ambition is more immediate: take the rich and famous on a ride to the edge of space. In July 2021, Branson successfully flew into space aboard VSS Unity, Virgin Galactic's spacecraft. The flight lasted just over 15 minutes, and although it didn't break any records in terms of distance or duration, it was significant for the space tourism industry. Branson's vision is to bring the experience of space travel to the masses, at least the wealthy ones. His company has already started selling tickets for suborbital flights, and he hopes to make space travel a regular part of the luxury travel experience. Unlike Musk, who focuses on Mars, or Bezos, who dreams of orbital colonies, Branson's vision is firmly grounded in the present. He wants to offer a once-in-a-lifetime experience to those willing to pay a hefty price, making space something that's not just for astronauts, but for everyday millionaires who want to experience weightlessness and the beauty of Earth from above. What makes these three men stand apart isn't just their wealth, it's their vision. While Bezos wants to save Earth by sending industries into space, Musk wants to take humanity to Mars as a backup for survival, and Branson simply wants to bring the experience of space closer to the elite. Their approaches are different, but the outcome could be the same. They are reshaping the space industry in ways that governments and traditional space agencies could never have imagined. Space has always been a place of wonder and mystery, but up Until recently, it was reserved for astronauts and government-funded missions. It was a distant frontier, far beyond the reach of ordinary people. But as we entered the 2020s, the landscape of space exploration began to change. Billionaires like Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, and Richard Branson began to open the doors of space to the super-rich, and the idea of space tourism became a reality. The question on everyone's mind: is this the dawn of a new luxury, frontier, or just an expensive game for the rich? In 2022, two companies, SpaceX and Blue Origin, started making headlines with their groundbreaking space tourism missions. SpaceX, led by Elon Musk, and Blue Origin, founded by Jeff Bezos, were no longer just building rockets for exploration or science. They were building rockets to take paying customers into space. Blue Origin's New Shepard rocket had already made successful suborbital flights before, but in 2022, it began offering more frequent flights, allowing civilians to join the ranks of space travelers. Bezos's goal was clear: make space accessible, not just for astronauts, but for anyone with the means to pay. This marked the beginning of the new space race. This time, the prize was not just scientific achievement, but the chance to claim a piece of the final frontier as a luxury. Meanwhile, SpaceX wasn't standing still. By 2022, the company had already achieved significant success with its Falcon 9 rocket, which carried astronauts to the International Space Station. But Musk had bigger plans. His Crew Dragon capsule, which was designed to carry humans into orbit, was now also making space tourism a reality. The real breakthrough for SpaceX came with the Inspiration 4 mission in September 2021, the first all-civilian crew mission to orbit Earth. The flight was a resounding success, capturing the attention of the world. It wasn't just a test flight or a stunt. It was a sign that space tourism was becoming a viable industry. Bezos and Musk were sending a message to the world: space is for the taking. The race was no longer about who could be the first to the moon or Mars. It was about who could open up space to the masses first, or at least to those who could afford the ticket. While Blue Origin and SpaceX were making headlines with their space tourism ambitions, Richard Branson's Virgin Galactic made history in 2021 as the first company to send a crewed flight into suborbital space. Branson himself was on board for that flight, making it a personal milestone. His Virgin Galactic spacecraft, VSS Unity, flew past the Kármán line, the internationally recognized boundary of space. The flight lasted only a few minutes, but it was enough to make Branson and his company household names. However, it wasn't until 2022 that Virgin Galactic began its official space tourism operations. After Branson's historic flight, the company began preparing for its first commercial flights. Despite its early success, Virgin Galactic focused on suborbital flights, where passengers would experience a brief period of weightlessness before returning to Earth. This was different from the orbital missions that SpaceX and Blue Origin were planning, but it was still groundbreaking. Virgin Galactic's goal was to make space travel accessible to the elite, those who could afford the hefty price tags of around $250,000 per ticket. For Branson, space tourism wasn't just about opening a new industry. It was about making space accessible to the world's most adventurous millionaires. His company's mission was to bring the thrill of space travel to those who had the financial means to enjoy it. As Branson put it, we want to make space accessible to all. While his version of space tourism wasn't exactly for the masses, it was the first step in making space a new playground for the super wealthy. As these billionaires raced to open up space to the wealthy, public reactions were mixed. Some hailed it as the dawn of a new era, a new frontier where the super-rich could explore the universe, bringing the promise of space exploration closer to home. Others, however, were critical, arguing that this was little more than a vanity project for the ultra-wealthy. How could billionaires be spending billions on space travel while the world was facing problems like poverty, climate change, and inequality? Critics argued that space tourism was an unnecessary extravagance, accessible only to those with the financial means to afford a trip. In the eyes of some, sending wealthy individuals on a brief flight to the edge of space seemed like a waste of resources, especially when so many people on Earth were struggling to make ends meet. Others questioned the environmental impact of launching rockets into space, as these missions use large amounts of fuel and contribute to carbon emissions. Yet there was also a growing support for the industry. Many saw the rise of space tourism as a necessary step for humanity's future. They argued that the development of commercial space travel could drive technological advancements that would eventually benefit everyone, just like the tech boom of the past few decades. Proponents pointed out that these missions were paving the way for new innovations in rocket technology, which could lower the cost of space travel in the future, making it accessible to more people. The real question was, is space travel for the masses or just an exclusive club for the ultra-wealthy? As these billionaires raced to make their mark on space tourism, they knew they were doing more than just taking rich passengers on a ride. They were setting the stage for a future where space might become just another part of our daily lives, perhaps not for everyone, but for those who could afford it. Space travel used to be the domain of highly trained astronauts, those selected and rigorously prepared by government agencies like NASA. But by the early 2020s, that narrative began to change. The idea of who could go to space and for what purpose was no longer confined to the few elite explorers of space. Instead, ordinary civilians, the ultra-rich in particular, started to get a ticket to the stars. The line between space explorer and tourist became increasingly blurred as the first civilian astronauts to leave Earth were not astronauts at all. They were simply paying passengers with a dream of space adventure. In July 2021, the world watched with anticipation as Jeff Bezos, the billionaire founder of Amazon and Blue Origin, boarded his company's New Shepard rocket for a suborbital journey into space. The flight itself was only 11 minutes long, but the event was groundbreaking for many reasons. Bezos wasn't a trained astronaut. He was just a business mogul who had made it to space with the help of his own company. As the rocket ascended, Bezos and 3 other passengers experienced a few minutes of weightlessness before descending back to Earth. This historic flight marked the first time a billionaire had traveled to space aboard his own spacecraft. Bezos wasn't just sending a personal message about his own ambitions. He was signaling the arrival of a new era, one where the ultra-wealthy could purchase a ticket to the final frontier, leaving behind the age of government-dominated space exploration. Critics immediately raised concerns about the ethics of space travel for the rich. Was this the next step in human evolution, or just a costly amusement for the elite? With such little access to space for the masses, was it right for the wealthiest people to be the first to enjoy these experiences? Still, there was no denying the significance of the achievement. This wasn't just a tourist trip, it was a vision coming to life. Bezos had big plans, not only for space tourism, but for space colonization. He dreamed of building a future in space where humanity could live off-planet and preserve Earth's resources for future generations. While Bezos was enjoying his first flight into space, another billionaire, Elon Musk, had already made a significant mark on the space industry. Musk's company, SpaceX, had been busy long before 2021. Its reusable Falcon 9 rockets were already revolutionizing how space missions were carried out. Musk had a bigger vision, though. He wasn't just focused on making space accessible for the rich. Musk's dream was to make humanity a multiplanetary species and to take humans to Mars. By 2022, SpaceX had made space travel more regular, with cargo missions to the International Space Station, ISS, becoming routine. These missions, along with crewed flights carrying astronauts to the ISS, became the backbone of space exploration in the new private sector. Musk's groundbreaking work with reusable rockets meant that SpaceX could launch and land rockets multiple times, dramatically reducing the costs of space travel. This was a game changer for the entire space industry, making missions more affordable and feasible for private companies. Musk also proved that commercial ventures could successfully work with space agencies. SpaceX wasn't just launching rockets for the fun of it. It was proving its technology could be used for serious scientific missions. The company even began sending astronauts to the ISS through its Crew Dragon capsules, a feat previously reserved for governmental space agencies. This added to Musk's growing reputation as someone who could change the entire space industry. His work was paving the way for a future where space travel could become more routine and possibly even cheaper. By 2022, both SpaceX and Blue Origin had developed reusable spacecraft. This was one of the most significant achievements in space exploration in recent history. For decades, rockets were used only once and then discarded. The expense of building new rockets for every mission was a huge financial barrier to space exploration. Reusable spacecraft changed that. SpaceX's Falcon 9 could be launched, landed, and then flown again. This drastically reduced the cost of missions and made space travel more economically viable. Blue Origin, though focused more on space tourism, was also working toward the same goal. It's a new Shepard rocket designed for suborbital. Space tourism was also reusable, making it a more sustainable option for future missions. The idea was to reduce the environmental impact and costs associated with rocket launches, which had previously been a huge concern. Beyond reusability, the companies also focused on solving the long-standing issue of space debris. With rockets being launched regularly, the space around Earth had become cluttered with spent rockets, satellites, and other debris. This created a growing risk for future missions, as even small pieces of debris could cause catastrophic damage to spacecraft. SpaceX and Blue Origin began developing technologies to remove and manage debris, a crucial step in ensuring that space exploration could continue safely. As these technologies advanced, it became clear that the future of space travel was going to look very different from what had come before. Private companies were leading the way, developing innovations that made space more accessible and more sustainable. It wasn't just about launching rockets. It was about revolutionizing the way humanity could reach the stars. With these milestones being achieved, public interest in space soared. What was once considered an exclusive domain for astronauts and scientists was now in the hands of everyday people, at least those who could afford it. The idea of ordinary civilians flying to space, even if only for a brief time, became an exciting prospect for many. News coverage of these achievements was widespread, capturing the imagination of millions. People began to dream about what it might be like to leave Earth behind, to see the world from above, and to experience the vastness of space firsthand. It wasn't just about the super rich. Anymore, the idea of space travel was becoming more real to the public, sparking a sense of possibility. As these space missions continued to unfold, the debate continued as well. Was this a sign of progress and hope for the future? Or was it simply a rich man's hobby? The first civilian flights marked the beginning of a new chapter in space exploration, one that was driven by ambition, technology, and the desire to open up the universe to all. When the space race of the 2020s began to take shape, it wasn't just a race to space. It was a high-stakes competition driven by billionaires determined to make their mark in history. Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk, two of the wealthiest men on the planet, became the central figures in this new space race. Their personal rivalry seemed as intense as the race to dominate the skies. From Twitter insults to legal skirmishes, the drama between these two moguls played out in front of the world, overshadowing even the successes of their respective companies. The tension between Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk was not just about technology or business success, it was personal. The media had a field day, with their rivalry constantly pitting the two billionaires against each other, whether it was in headlines or heated debates on Twitter. It was a classic David versus Goliath story, with Musk's SpaceX pushing the envelope on ambitious space missions, while Bezos's Blue Origin took a slower, more deliberate approach. Their rivalry had a public side and a private one. Bezos, the founder of Amazon, had poured his wealth into Blue Origin, which, like SpaceX, was aiming to revolutionize space travel. However, unlike Musk, Bezos had a more long-term vision. SpaceX was moving fast, taking bold risks, and making headlines with its reusable Falcon 9 rockets and plans for interplanetary travel. In contrast, Blue Origin focused on creating a sustainable, long-term human presence in space, something that might not pay off in the short term, but could change the future of humanity forever. Their public feud was not just about innovation, it was about who would leave the biggest legacy. Musk's ambition was clear. He wanted to colonize Mars and make humanity a multiplanetary species. Bezos, on the other hand, was thinking about the broader picture, including orbital cities and even space tourism on a large scale. Their differing visions for the future of space. Exploration fueled their rivalry, but it wasn't just about business. It became personal. From Musk's pointed comments on Twitter about Blue Origin's progress to Bezos's occasional barbs about SpaceX's high risk, high reward strategy, their interactions often felt like a game of one-upmanship. But as we'll see, both of them were also pushing each other to do things in space that no one had imagined just a decade earlier. One of the key advantages SpaceX had over Blue Origin was its relentless focus on making space travel more affordable and sustainable. SpaceX's reusable Falcon 9 rocket was a breakthrough. For years, rockets were discarded after each launch, making space travel prohibitively expensive. But with the Falcon 9, Musk's company proved that rockets could be reused, significantly cutting the cost of each mission. In addition to the cost-saving innovations, SpaceX also focused on mission frequency. While Blue Origin was primarily focused on suborbital space tourism, SpaceX was already sending rockets into orbit and performing regular cargo runs to the International Space Station, ISS. Musk's ultimate goal was to send humans to Mars, and SpaceX made tremendous strides with the Crew Dragon capsule, which safely carried astronauts to the ISS in 2020. These successes put SpaceX far ahead in terms of public perception, and the world started seeing Musk as the leader in the new space race. Musk's philosophy was clear: space travel should be as common as air travel. By proving that rockets could be reused, SpaceX was creating a new business model for the space industry, one that could lead to space missions being as routine as commercial flights. Musk didn't just want to make money, he wanted to create the technology and infrastructure that would allow humanity to leave Earth and thrive in space. While Musk's SpaceX made bold moves and captured headlines, Bezos's Blue Origin was pursuing a more measured, long-term approach. Bezos had a vision of creating orbital civilizations, cities in space that would house humans and allow Earth's resources to be preserved. To achieve this, Blue Origin was working on projects that could support human life in space for long periods. In addition to the New Shepard rocket designed for space tourism, Blue Origin was focusing on a more ambitious plan: the Blue Moon lunar lander. This spacecraft was part of Bezos's goal to send humans to the Moon and eventually to Mars. Blue Origin also started working on the orbital redefining, a commercial space station that would serve as a platform for businesses to operate in low Earth orbit. These projects represented a long-term vision for space colonization with a focus on infrastructure and sustainability. While SpaceX was pushing forward with crewed missions and reusable rockets, Blue Origin took a step back to focus on the future. What would humanity need to survive in space for the long haul? By 2022, Bezos was making strategic moves to ensure Blue Origin could play a major role in the infrastructure that would make future space missions possible. The rivalry between Musk and Bezos went far beyond petty competition. It was about vision. Musk was all about making space accessible, with the goal of creating a future where humanity could live and thrive on other planets. Bezos, on the other hand, was thinking about how humanity could live sustainably in space and preserve Earth for future generations. Both billionaires were driven by personal ambition, but they also knew that space exploration was a legacy they could leave for humanity. The world was watching as these two moguls went head-to-head, pushing the boundaries of space exploration and changing the way we thought about the final frontier. But it wasn't just about them. The race they sparked wasn't just for profit, it was for history. Would Musk's daring plans to colonize Mars come to fruition, or would Bezos's vision of orbital cities win the day? As these two visionaries competed, they were shaping the future of space exploration and humanity's place in the universe. The rivalry between Bezos and Musk stands as one of the most compelling storylines in modern space exploration. The competition between Their companies was about more than just success. It was about their vision for humanity's future in space. And with both SpaceX and Blue Origin advancing rapidly, it was clear that the new space race was only just beginning. The billionaire-led space race, driven by visionaries like Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, and Richard Branson, represents more than just a competition to conquer the stars. It has ignited advancements that have profound implications for Earth. Technologies initially designed for space exploration have become integral to daily life. Satellite technology, for instance, has revolutionized global communication, enabling GPS systems, weather forecasting, and internet connectivity. Similarly, innovations in materials science, created to endure the harsh conditions of space, have led to stronger, lighter, and more durable materials now used in various industries, from efficient solar panels to better insulation. Space exploration has also reshaped conversations about sustainability. SpaceX's reusable rockets have dramatically reduced the cost and waste of space travel, setting an example for sustainable practices across industries. Jeff Bezos's Blue Origin envisions orbital cities to alleviate pressure on Earth's ecosystems, while Elon Musk's push for renewable energy and clean technologies ties space exploration to the fight against climate change. These initiatives suggest that space technology could play a pivotal role in addressing Earth's environmental challenges, including climate change and resource depletion. However, the environmental impact of space exploration raises critical concerns. Rocket launches, particularly those using chemical propulsion, release pollutants that harm the ozone layer and contribute to climate change. The growing space tourism industry, exemplified by Virgin Galactic, faces criticism for its emissions, which, while smaller than those of commercial aviation, could grow as more players enter the market. Environmentalists have called for the development of greener rocket technologies, such as electric propulsion systems, to mitigate these effects. Balancing exploration with environmental responsibility remains a key challenge. The space race is not just about reaching Mars or achieving new technological milestones. It's reshaping how we think about sustainability and humanity's future. While the full impact of space exploration on Earth's challenges remains uncertain, its ripple effects, through technological advancements, environmental advocacy, and global collaboration, will influence generations to come. Whether space can ultimately help save Earth or exacerbate its problems depends on how thoughtfully the industry balances innovation with stewardship. The years 2022 and 2023 marked a transformative phase in space exploration, driven by private companies like SpaceX, Blue Origin, and Virgin Galactic. These years saw significant technological advancements and a shift in the perception of space travel from government-led missions to opportunities for private citizens. SpaceX made significant strides with its Starship program, designed as a reusable spacecraft capable of carrying passengers and cargo to the Moon, Mars, and beyond. Test flights in this period fine-tuned its design, focusing on reusability to lower costs and pave the way for human settlement on Mars. Though a Mars mission remained in the future, Starship's advancements promised a new era in space travel accessibility. Blue Origin, led by Jeff Bezos, partnered with NASA to develop a lunar landing system for the Artemis missions. Their Blue Moon lander aimed to deliver humans and cargo to the Moon's surface, supporting NASA's vision for long-term lunar habitation. This collaboration underscored the growing role of private companies in high-stakes space projects and laid the groundwork for sustainable exploration beyond Earth. Virgin Galactic, under Richard Branson, continued expanding its space tourism ventures. The company offered suborbital flights, allowing civilians to experience weightlessness and witness Earth from space. While tickets remained costly, these flights demonstrated the feasibility of commercial space travel and the potential for broader access in the future. The private sector's involvement in space exploration during this period signaled the dawn of a new era. Companies not only pushed technological boundaries but also redefined humanity's relationship with space, moving from exclusive governmental missions to a vision of space accessible to the wealthy and eventually, potentially, the broader public. These advancements raised important questions about the sustainability, inclusivity, and long-term impact of this rapidly evolving frontier. The privatization of space exploration has introduced profound ethical and political challenges as companies like SpaceX, Blue Origin, and Virgin Galactic lead humanity's push into the cosmos. These developments raise questions about access, regulation, and sustainability in the new space age. Space tourism, once a concept of science fiction, is now a reality, but only for the wealthy. Virgin Galactic and Blue Origin offer suborbital flights at steep costs, creating a disparity in access to space. Critics argue that this commercialization risks turning space into an exclusive playground for the elite, sidelining its potential to benefit humanity as a whole. While private ventures aim to democratize space travel eventually, the current high costs underscore the inequality in who gets to participate in this new frontier. Traditionally led by national agencies like NASA and Roscosmos, space exploration now heavily involves private corporations. SpaceX's reusable rockets and Blue Origin's lunar ambitions have reshaped the landscape, driving innovation and lowering costs. This shift prompts debate over the role of governments. Should they continue leading, partner with private firms, or regulate the industry to ensure fairness and safety? Public-private collaborations might strike the right balance, fostering innovation while maintaining oversight. As the space industry expands, issues like space debris, resource extraction, and environmental impact demand urgent attention. Increasing orbital traffic raises collision risks, while plans to mine asteroids and the moon pose ethical dilemmas about resource ownership and exploitation. Additionally, rocket emissions contribute to Earth's environmental crisis, pressing the need for sustainable practices. While private companies have propelled space exploration forward, governments must play a critical role in ensuring equitable access, ethical practices, and environmental stewardship. The future of space exploration hinges on balancing innovation with responsibility, aiming to make the cosmos a shared frontier for all of humanity, not just the privileged few. The future of space exploration is shifting from national pride and scientific discovery to securing humanity's survival, driven by billionaires like Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, and Richard Branson. These private pioneers are shaping humanity's destiny beyond Earth, but their ambitions raise critical questions about equality, ethics, and the commercialization of space. Elon Musk's SpaceX is at the forefront with its Starship program, aiming to establish a self-sustaining human presence on Mars. Musk views Mars as a backup for humanity, protecting against existential threats like climate change or natural disasters. Starship, designed for reusability and heavy cargo transport, is pivotal in building colonies on the Red Planet. Musk envisions Mars not just as a refuge, but as a thriving, advanced society. While ambitious, SpaceX's successes in rocket technology suggest Musk's vision is not entirely far-fetched. Jeff Bezos's Blue Origin focuses on Earth's sustainability through orbital habitats. Projects like Orbital Reef aim to build space stations for human habitation, manufacturing, and research. Bezos envisions moving polluting industries to space, preserving Earth as a paradise. Unlike Musk's Mars-centric approach, Bezos emphasizes near-Earth solutions, making orbital colonies a key step toward sustainable development. The commercialization of space blurs the lines between exploration, tourism, and profit. Virgin Galactic's luxury space tourism caters to the wealthy, raising concerns about inequality in access to space. Meanwhile, space mining, manufacturing, and tourism promise new industries but risk unchecked corporate control and environmental damage. Critics fear the monopolization of space by billionaires, potentially sidelining the broader population. The race to space offers hope for humanity's survival and technological advancement, but demands careful oversight. Will private companies ensure equitable access and sustainability, or will governments need to intervene? The coming decades will determine whether space becomes humanity's salvation or another realm of inequality and exploitation.